Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. If at some point through the meeting you find that you do, please declare it at that time. I see Councillor Foster, you have your card up.
Yes, I do. Sorry, I just noticed on 7.5, the YMCA, as well as the associated bylaw, which is 2021-17, I believe. As a member of the Y, I'm going to declare on both those, and I'll send in the documentation to the clerk.
Okay. Thank you. There's no others. We'll move on to adoption of minutes. If I can have a mover and seconder for the January 26 minutes of council. That's Councillor Foster and Councillor Kinney. Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 26, 2021 are hereby adopted as circulated. Is there any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We have no deputations, presentations, petitions, or public meetings. Madam Clerk, has anyone registered for comment and question period today?
We have no registrations today.
Thank you. Under correspondence received for information, we have a letter from the City of St. Catharines. If I could have a mover and seconder for this motion. Deputy Mayor Bray and Councillor Kinney. The council received the letter dated February 9th, 2021 from the City of St. Catharines pertaining to universal paid sick days in Ontario for information. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Wells?
Worship, well, generally, I will be supporting the motion to take it for information, but I just comment is that while I'm supporting in the concept that need for minimum wage, I also have to always worry about how is this affecting business owners, particularly small business owners, in that everything such as this is something that takes away from their potential profit line, and so many small businesses are operating on the edge that it does concern me a little bit how they are going to be able to absorb this into their financial situation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, Mayor. I will also be supporting it in principle, but I felt the letter was quite vague. Like it didn't indicate, the number of days or when you might need a doctor's note after a certain number of days, and didn't indicate a lot of information between full-time and part-time. In that, if a part-timer has a 7-hour shift and phones in ill, versus having a 3-hour shift, is there, so I think there needs to be quite a bit more detail behind the letter, but in principle, I support.
Yeah, and just for clarity, we're not looking to support everything in it. We're just receiving for information today. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. Just wanted to add to that, as a small business, fundamentally agree that sick days probably should be paid. I think the pandemic has shown that we don't need sick people in our workplace. We have to get away from thinking that, we should take our drugs, get up and go in, and we should actually stay home and keep the germs to ourselves if we aren't feeling well. So I think this probably rests with the federal government, not the provincial government, and certainly not municipal. But I do think that it's an issue worth speaking about. So, good for St. Catharines for starting the dialogue.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other comments, I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We have correspondence regarding professional municipal training. If I could have a mover and seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Kinney and Deputy Mayor Bray. The council received the letter dated February 18th, 2021 from the AMCTO pertaining to professional municipal training for information. Is there any discussion on this item? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Correspondence requiring action. We have a motion from or a letter from the town of Bracebridge with regard to infrastructure funding. If I could have a mover and seconder for this, please. Councillor Watson and Councillor Foster. The council received the letter dated January 22nd, 2021 from the town of Bracebridge pertaining to infrastructure funding for information. And further, that the council of the town of Wasaga Beach supports the letter pertaining to infrastructure funding. And further, that the council of the town of Wasaga Beach resolves that the federal and provincial governments provide immediate, broad, and substantial municipal funding opportunities for well-planned, shovel-ready projects already prioritized under municipal asset management plans to provide immediate stimulus to the local, provincial, and federal economies in order to rebound from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there any discussion on this item? Deputy Mayor Bray?
Thank you. Just wanted to say it was an excellent letter. It certainly could have been written by Wasaga Beach. I'm sure ours will, possibly have a few more key points in it, but it's timely and it's very, very important, I think, to get this message up to the federal government. So thank you.
And just on that note, I was invited, I think it was last week, to have input into the, it's kind of a last minute meeting invitation to comment on budget discussions and things like that. So that message has been sent already about the importance of doing that from Wasaga Beach's standpoint. Councillor Kinney, I believe you were next.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I echo Deputy Mayor's comments with regards to timeliness and the importance of the infrastructure going ahead. I did notice they're also looking for an arena and a library up in Bracebridge, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other communities throughout the province of Ontario that have likewise prioritized infrastructure needs. So I'm fully in support of this letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, in the body of the letter, you look that there was $10 billion request for $1 billion funding envelope. So it's important for the public to realize that while we're trying to get all this, any grant we can get, we try pretty well any grant we can get, these things are so hugely oversubscribed that there's no magic wand we can wave and get to the front of the line. We're in there with everyone else. And, it's a mixed blessing. We have a really strong development and reserves, and which is the work of many, many councils to get there. So, the idea that all of a sudden we're going to be able to jump to the front of the line by waving a wand, or it's just not realistic. There's huge demand for all this money, and all we can do is continue to make our case and push like this letter. And, that's what we're doing. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. And I believe Pam Kenwell was away that day, so maybe I can get her to circulate the letter that did go out to members of council, because maybe it didn't get circulated. If there's nothing more, I believe I've read the motion. So all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next is a letter from the Township of Perth South with regard to the working groups for conservation authorities. If I could have a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Foster. The council received the letter dated February 2nd, 2021 from the Township of Perth South pertaining to a working group to better focus conservation authorities for information, and further that the council of the town of Wasaga Beach supports the concerns raised by the Township of Perth South in its February 2nd, 2021 letter to Minister Urick. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the key message in this letter, and I'm glad hopefully we're going to support it, is that South Perth is quite disappointed with the composition of the working group. They're suggesting it's dominated by conservation authorities who are tasked with recommending the very regulations that govern them. I'm sure you can agree that the initial optics of the governed designing the governance of themselves is concerning. So it's a timely topic for us in Wasaga Beach with the conservation authorities, and I'm glad this letter has gone out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess Councillor Watson, for the most part, expressed what I wanted to say as well. That when I saw the working group created, I thought, wow, how do you stack the deck? I go back a few years, Your Worship, when you were on the board, representing the town on the board, and we went through an incredible period of trying to sort out what the Conservation Authority actually had jurisdictional authority over. and what they claimed to have jurisdictional authority over. And through your work and some other members of the board, we were actually able to get into an MOU that said, okay, from here on in, this is where you can tell us what to do. This is where you can give us your advice, but we don't have to take it if we don't want to. I have a strong feeling that we've slipped a long way back from that position over the past few years, and we're pretty much back to where we started before your work as the chair began. But when I read the Conservation Authority listings as who's on this, I've struggled to understand how Minister Urick can think in any way, shape, or form that he has got a bipartisan or an unbiased committee to look at these situations when every single one of the members on there, maybe except for one or two, has a self-interest and should be literally declaring a conflict of interest in the matters that they're undertaking to discuss. So I was quite disgusted by the concept. It seems to me it's just one of those ones where we're looking like we're doing something, but really all we're doing is perpetuating the existing. So I guess I've expressed my frustration enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. And I can also say, as the chair for the county's regional government review on service delivery, we are looking at this issue actually next week. So it will be looked at in depth at that level. My hope would be that County Council will eventually have a report that they can get behind and support to make sure that that committee receives comments from the County of Simcoe. I did hear when the committee was first formed that there was concern by some others on the committee that, there was a few developers on there, but I mean, they certainly were still outnumbered by conservation authorities. So there needs to be a fair playing field. And I think the only way we're going to get that is if we're vocal ourselves about the issues and things that we deal with. So I'll leave it at that.
Your Worship, I think there's an old saying, putting the fox in charge of the hen house.
Yes, I've heard that. If there's no other comments, I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next, we'll move on to committee board reports. We'll start with Community Services. Councillor Kinney, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following are the highlights from the February 11th, 2021 Community Services section of Coordinated Committee. Committee is recommending that Council approve extending the existing town facilities cleaning contract for an additional 2 years with CA Sellers Cleaning Services Limited, effective May 1st at a cost of $134,000 plus applicable taxes. Council approved the current 3-year contract in March of 2018 at a cost of $180,802. The committee received a report from the Twin Pad Arena and Fundraising and Sponsorship Coordinator. The report highlights a 30, 60, and 90-day work plan that focuses on the creation of fundraising initiatives to support the new Twin Pad Arena and Library project. Committee received for information the Director of Recreation report on formalizing the partnership with the Simcoe County Board of Education for the provisions of the joint use recreation facility as part of the new elementary school plan for Sunnydale Trails subdivision. Members of the public can find an informative Q&A about this development project on our website at www.wasagabeach.com. Committee also directed staff to draft a bylaw authorizing joint use of the agreement with the board for the new facilities. The new facility will operate as a community center and offer a number of amenities, including a double gym, multi-purpose room, kitchenette, washroom, and portable stage. The town's capital contribution for this project is $1.5 million, and it forms the town's 4-year capital forecast. The operating cost also forms part of the tax rate forecast. The new school is scheduled to open September 2023, along with the community center. The partnership with the school board represents a good value for residents of Wasaga Beach and another way in which the community is moving forward. In other matters, the committee is recommending that council receive for information the report on the request for pre-qualification of general contractors for the Twin Pad Arena and Library project. The committee is also asking the council direct traffic to work with Colliers International, our project consultant, and the construction steering group to develop and post a RFPQ for general contractors interested in building the new arena and library. In addition, committee recommends that council direct staff to work with the project consultant and steering committee to evaluate the RFPQ proposals and then bring a recommendation to council for selection of qualified general contractors. The town would then request the pre-qualified contractors to put forth bids to build the new facility. On behalf of the Community Services section of Coordinating Committee, I ask that council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments of Councillor Kinney's report? Councillor Belanger.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate, because related to 3.5.5, which is the pre-qualification of general contractors, because Colliers and MJMA might be a part of the evaluation, I had said previously and would like to see all of the contractors that they have worked with on similar sized projects over the last 5 years and whether they were on and over budget by what amount. I think that ensures the best transparency in the process. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, moving on to Public Works, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following are the highlights from the February 11th, 2021 Public Works section of Coordinated Committee. The committee received for information a report on planned drainage improvements in the west end of town. The first phase of the work encompasses an area along Shore Lane between 64th and 61st Street. The improvements include a new drainage outlet at the north limit of 62nd Street. Committee is recommending the town award the administration and inspection work for the project to RJ Burnside and Associates at a cost of $159,900. In early March, the town will ask companies to bid on the construction work that is required for the drainage improvements. Staff will then present a recommendation at the April 8th Coordinated Committee meeting to award the construction contract. The aim is for construction to start in May. The committee received the Golf Course Road Traffic Calming Information Report. The report notes residents' concerns about speeding along the road and town's efforts to address the situation through the installation of 3 speed tables last year. These tables, essentially bumps of pavement, have reduced speeding along the road as demonstrated through traffic monitoring devices. Committee is recommending that no further action to address traffic concerns raised by members of the public be taken by staff except for consideration of an all-way stop at Golf Course Road and Marlwood Avenue. Some residents have requested the all-way stop as another traffic control measure. The town will review the merit of an all-way stop by conducting a traffic count at the intersection this summer. Committee received the monthly drinking water system report for information, plus the water pollution control plant report. The 2 reports find both systems are operating to standards. On behalf of the Public Works section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Councillor Watson's report? Okay, moving on to Development Committee. Councillor Foster, please.
Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. The following are the highlights from the February 11th, 2020 Development Service section of the Coordinated Committee. Committee is recommending that Council receive for information a report from planning staff regarding an appeal by TPC Marlwood Inc. to the local planning appeal tribunal due to Council not rendering a decision on the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications submitted to the town. Staff advised the applicant of additional requirements in August 2020, and in November 2020, the town received a response. Further revisions are required to information provided. However, the applicant has decided to appeal the applications to the tribunal. Committee is recommending that council approve the following street names for the River's Edge subdivision development: Sun Valley Avenue, Nicoart Road, Frederica Crescent, Delray Crescent, Tran Street, Vilma Street, Rosanna Circle, Vento Drive, Katrina Street, Ilaria Circle, Pica Street, Milano Drive, Toscano Street, Abruzzo Drive, Padova Street, Capri Crescent, and Brescia Drive. Committee recommends council approve a part lot control exemption under the Planning Act that will ultimately allow the sale of 38 townhomes under construction as part of Phase 2 of Trillium Forest North, plan of subdivision in the west end of town, between Mosley Street and Ramblewood Drive. The homes will front onto Bianca Drive. Committee received the Building Department's activity summary for the month of January, noting the department issued 72 building permits for construction. Lost my spot. So there we are, for construction projects valued at $26 million. The department also conducted 149 inspections for the month. The report is another indicator of the strong level of development activity happening in our community. Committee is recommending council receive the project status report update from Planning and Economic Initiatives Department. The report notes staff are currently working on 40 files, which include major plans of subdivision, site plans, requests for land use changes through official plans and zoning bylaw amendments. The report notes significant development activity starting this year, including Pacific Homes first phase in Sunnydale Trails, that's 604 homes in total. Zancor Sunnydale Trails first phase, that's 1,145 homes. Zancor's Ramblewood subdivision, another 177 homes. Haymount Stonebridge project, 48 homes. Elm Development Phase 1, Stage 3 project, 58 homes. Berkeley Homes on Berkeley Drive project, 14 homes. Golden Sand project at 45th Street and Knox Road West, 100 homes. Petro Gold's gas station and 3-story building at River Road West and Main Street. Petro Canada Burger King car wash project at River Road West and Theme Park Drive. My personal favorite, Wendy's restaurant at Mosley and 28th Street, just over there. A&W restaurant at 45th Street. Twin Pad Arena and Library project on River Road West. 117-unit 4-story retirement home at 707 River Road West behind the Foodland. Noted in the report are additional projects that have post-2021 construction timelines. Again, this is another strong indicator of the development activity in Wasaga Beach. Obviously, nothing has been paused. On behalf of the Development Service Section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments of Councillor Foster's report? Okay, moving on to General Government. Deputy Mayor Bray, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's a tough list to follow. Thank you, Councillor Foster. The following are the highlights from the February 11th, 2021 General Government section of Coordinated Committee. Committee recommends Council receive for information the Municipal Service Level Report outlining the role the Municipal Law Enforcement Department will play in enforcing provincial orders related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The department will help the OPP enforce orders related to such things as indoor and outdoor gathering limits, the wearing of face coverings and physical distancing. The public can reach the department weekdays from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Committee is recommending Council receive for information the Municipal Law Enforcement Department's monthly activity report for January and the 2020 recap. The department responded to 155 calls for service in January. The 2020 recap report notes the department handled nearly 3,500 occurrences. Committee is recommending Council receive for information the Staff Recognition Update Report. In 2020, the program used $13,000 and recognized 5 staff. Committee is also recommending that Council adopt amendments to the procedural bylaw to allow electronic in-camera meetings. In addition, committee received the review and update of the Delegation of Powers and Duty report for information. Committee is recommending Council adopt policy 1-3 as updated, and the current delegation of authority bylaw be replaced with a recommended new one. Committee is recommending that Council approve the addition of winter internment fees for Wasaga Beach Cemetery as proposed in the related fee schedule effective March 2nd, 2021. As well, committee is recommending that Council receive a report on the status of the agreement with Zancor Homes and the town regarding the town business park at the west end off Ramblewood Drive and Lions Court. Committee is recommending Council authorize the CAO to start discussions with Zancor on the transfer of business park lands to Zancor based on the 2006 terms of the agreement. Zancor installed services to the park on the condition the town convey 47 acres of the park to Zancor. The company is now ready to start development of the park. Committee is recommending that Council authorize staff to accept for consideration a development proposal from Zancor for the business park. This is another exciting development activity occurring in Wasaga Beach. Committee is recommending that Council approve the 2021 grants as listed in the Municipal Grant Allocation Report. The report recommends that $21,776 goes to 7 local organizations. These funds will help the organizations deliver important programs and services to the residents of Wasaga Beach. Finally, committee is recommending that Council authorize the Treasurer to process an application with Infrastructure Ontario for a $36.5 million floating rate capital loan to cover construction financing for the following 2 projects and HST requirements when needed. Number 1, $3 million for the Main Street Bridge. Number 2, $31.7 million for the new Twin Pad Arena and Library Building. And number 3, $1.8 million for HST refund cash flow requirements. The interest rate for this financial instrument as of February 3rd was 0.61%. The loan will be used as required for a period of up to 5 years. The town can make additional payments during this open period from funds that become available. Once construction is complete, a long-term debenture will be issued for the balance. On behalf of the General Government Services section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions of Deputy Mayor Bray's report? Councillor Belanger?
Not questions, but under delegation of powers and authority, I won't be supporting that bylaw. One was, as I had previously opposed, the lifting of hold H for developments being passed to other than council. And more importantly, I'm very concerned about the ability for the CAO and the mayor to award up to $4,000 to a single individual for recognition without any clear criteria. And in the report, there's no annual cap either. Previously there, last year when council decided that that was okay, there was an annual cap, but that is not indicated in the report. Thank you.
Councillor Foster?
Your Worship, I was going to do a point of order. That was debated. We're just approving minutes at this point. It was previously debated and the councillors' points were noted then.
Thank you. Can I have a mover?
Excuse me?
Councillor Belanger?
For clarification, until council meeting is affirmed or voted on at the end of this meeting, I'm able to reiterate any points I had made previously, is my understanding, and I checked that with the integrity commissioners, so I believe I'm correct in that.
Okay, we have coordinated committee minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Bray and Councillor Wells, that council received the coordinated committee reports of February 11th, 2021 as circulated and approves all actions contained therein. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried by a vote of 6-1 with Councillor Belanger in opposition. Moving on to Committee of the Whole minutes of February 18th. The following are the highlights from the February 18th Committee of the Whole meeting. Committee of the Whole is recommending that Council receive the update from Mosey & Mosey, the town's benefit consultants, regarding a review of benefits and related costs. Committee is recommending Council approve transfer of life, dependent life, accidental death and dismemberment, and long-term disability benefits from Canada Life to Desjardins effective May 1st. In addition, committee is recommending council approve the renewal of short-term disability, extended health, and dental benefits with Canada Life for 2021. This will result in a savings of $52,499 or 4.3% in 2021 compared to current benefit costs. As well, committee is recommending council allocate $75,000 of the current refund deposit account balance of $125,001 generated under the town's benefit management program to the town's administrative reserve, maintaining a balance of $50,000 in the refund deposit account to offset potential future increased benefit costs. The committee also received for information the Treasurer's COVID-19 preliminary financial report for the period ending December 31st, 2020. The report notes the town has been able to manage the financial impact of COVID-19 through the implementation of cost containment measures and with help from a provincial grant of $806,000. These steps have helped maintain the town's strong financial position. As well, committee received for information the economic impact and forecast report. The report documents the impact of the pandemic since the last report in April 2020 and projects the future economic situation for Wasaga Beach. The past year was challenging for all sectors, but the report notes recovery from the pandemic is underway. It will take time, though, for the economy to return to pre-pandemic performance. The town's business recovery portal on the website provides a variety of information and supports that members of the local business community are encouraged to access. Finally, committee is recommending council receive for information a report on the World Travel and Tourism Council's Safety Travels Stamp Program and the Post Promise. The Tourism Industry Association of Ontario is administering the stamp program. The committee is recommending council authorize the CAO to submit an application to the stamp program on behalf of the town. Participants in the program, by displaying the stamp, are signaling to the public that they are following health and hygiene protocols. The goal of the program is to help restore confidence in travelers and to help the travel and tourism industry recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. On behalf of committee of the whole, I ask that council approve the recommendations in this report. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Belanger, and is there any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next is the accounts. Deputy Mayor Bray, did you wish to speak to these?
Sorry, I had to find my unmute button. Thank you, Your Worship. The accounts have been reviewed and supported by their respective standing committees, just so that everyone knows that they are reviewed before we approve them so quickly here. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can have a mover and seconder for this motion, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Foster, that council approve the January 1st to 31st, 2021 accounts in the amount of $4,719,602.35. All those in favor? Councillor Watson, are you in favor? All those in favor? I'm not sure. There we go. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a report from the executive assistant with regard to proclamations and flag raisings. If we could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells. The council received the information report pertaining to proclamations and flag raisings for the month of February 2021 for information. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Kinney, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I won't take up too much time. I just want to say it's great to see that we're still moving forward with our recognition of different agencies throughout the town and around. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll ask again, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next, we have a recommendation with regard to the opening of the YMCA. The motion reads that council approve the provision of financial assistance to help the Wasaga Beach YMCA reopen on March 1st, 2021, based on the terms outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding with the YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka attached to the staff report dated February 23rd, 2021. Further, that this assistance is temporary in nature and is intended to assist the Wasaga Beach YMCA return to full financial sustainability. And further, that council directs staff to provide the YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka a one-time payment of $8,500 to assist with startup costs and monthly maximum payments of $13,866 over 6 months for a total maximum contribution of $49,147 to be taken from account 01-770-570-05908 for the 2021 Recplex budget. And I will note this is one that Councillor Foster had declared a conflict with, and I will be looking for a mover and seconder for this motion, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Belanger, is there any discussion? All those in favor? And that is approved by a vote of 6-0. Oh, Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I lost my whole audio when we were talking back for the committee of the whole meetings for February the 18th, and I had requested to speak at that. Is there any chance I could follow up with that at this moment? I just couldn't hear a thing for about 5 minutes there.
I thought you were just ignoring me, but sure, if you'd like to go ahead. I was told at the beginning that you did have a comment to make, so my apologies, because I forgot about that too.
Well, no, it's really my apologies. I don't know what happened, but anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, at that meeting, there was a professional report provided to council and the public from our Economic Development Office. This document was entitled Economic Impact and Forecast Report for the town of Wasaga Beach. And it's 36 pages of highly relevant information and statistics and references to the labor force and employment, tourism, housing, and other sectors of our economy. On page 29 of the report, it lists the top 5 industries in Wasaga Beach by number of jobs. 4 of the top 5 employers all relate to the building and construction industry and housing services industry in Wasaga Beach. And the 5th, the other one with for largest employers, is the restaurant and eating establishment sector. This really affirms what this council is striving for in establishing a well-balanced and full-service community from east to west. And it is not a one-dimensional town and not only reliant on visitors. And if you paid attention to Councillor Foster's Development Committee report, you can see the amount of activity from east to west serving the entire community. So I really congratulate our Economic Development Office for providing and researching this important information and I encourage our residents to read the document and see for themselves all the good things that are happening in Wasaga Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, and definitely worthwhile saying again, so thank you for that. Next, we'll move on to the CAO's verbal update regarding COVID. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Good morning, members of the council. So we have our COVID update of February 23rd, and I'm joined today by our communications coordinator and our deputy fire chief, who are going to speak respectively on the provincial update and then the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit update, and then I'm going to provide an update from town operations. So, Your Worship, I'd like to turn it over to our communications coordinator, Mike Jennings.
You're welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, members of council. Can everyone hear me okay? Very good. So as I have done in the past, I'm going to give a little synopsis on announcements from the province. We'll start back on February the 12th. This is when the government said it was safely restarting passenger road tests at most drive centers across Ontario. Also that day, Queen's Park said that based on the successful use of rapid COVID tests in select settings, it is deploying test kits to more essential workplaces and sectors to quickly identify and help stop the spread of COVID. Also that day in the afternoon, the government announced that it was transitioning 27 public health regions out of shutdown using the revised COVID-19 response framework. And as you all know, Simcoe Muskoka is now in what's called the red control level. A few days later, on February 16th, the government said that it is providing up to $118,000 to develop specialized COVID resources to better protect the health and safety of temporary foreign workers and others employed in the agri-food sector. The government later that day said that it was expanding the number of small businesses that can apply for Main Street relief grants to help offset the cost of purchasing PPE. Small businesses that meet the stipulations can now apply for up to $1,000 in financial support. And this information has been shared by our economic development staff. As well, on the 16th, the government introduced legislation that will allow improved access to the justice system for people across the province during the pandemic, modernizing the processes and breaking down barriers in the courts and at tribunals and other legal clinics. As I mentioned, this is in response to COVID, and if passed, the Accelerating Access to Justice Act will implement measures that save people money and reduce the time they must wait for their day in court or at a tribunal. As well, on the 19th, Queen's Park announced it's investing more than $7 million in 87 local and virtual events to help the Ontario festival and event sector during COVID-19. Wasaga Beach is receiving $25,000 through this. As well, on the 19th, the government extended and maintained the shutdown and stay-at-home orders for 2 more weeks in Toronto, Peel, and North Bay Parry Sound District. York Region, as you'll recall, transitioned out of the shutdown to the red control level. This was yesterday, they moved into that. And on the 19th as well, Queen's Parks announced that it has administered more than 500,000 doses of COVID vaccine to phase 1 priority populations, which now includes adults 80 years of age and older. The government says it continues to expand capacity and ramp up efforts for phase 2 of its vaccination rollout, which is expected to start in April. Public health units are developing plans to operate immunization clinics as soon as enough supply becomes available. And yesterday we heard from the Solicitor General and the Premier that health units must design and carry out their own vaccination plans. And Your Worship, that concludes my update for now.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions of Mr. Jennings? Okay, thank you. We will move on to the Deputy Chief. Craig?
Good morning, Your Worship and members of Council. I'll start by providing our typical COVID-19 stats from the health unit, and then I'll follow up with some information about the plans for local mass immunization clinics and carrying on from the comments that Mike just made. So although there is concern of an eventual third wave of transmission, we continue to see improvement in the vast majority of COVID-19 indicators, both locally and provincially, and this is good news. Globally, there have been more than 111 million cases of COVID-19, including 2.46 million deaths. Nationally, we've experienced 848,000 cases, including 21,699 deaths, and provincially, we've now surpassed 298,000 cases. That number includes 276,000 recoveries and 6,861 deaths. The current number of Ontario residents that are hospitalized due to COVID-19 is 646, and this number includes 280 that are admitted to ICUs, and of those, 189 that are currently on ventilators. The provincial testing positivity rate is now 3.3%, and Ontario has completed over 10.6 million COVID-19 tests since the beginning of the pandemic. Within the Simcoe-Muskoka region, we've now had 6,099 reported cases, and the number of deaths has increased to 184. To date, there have been 171 local cases that have tested positive for the COVID-19 variant of concern, which is UKB117, and there are an additional 158 cases that have screened positive for the variant, but we're waiting laboratory confirmation. There are 22 individuals who are currently hospitalized within our area, and the 7-day moving average for Simcoe-Muskoka is now at 36.7 cases per day. The percent positivity rate in Simcoe County has now dropped to 1.9%, and there are 14 active outbreaks within Simcoe County, including 8 institutions, 1 community setting, 1 education setting, and 4 workplaces. There have been over 34,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine administered within Simcoe Muskoka, and these doses have been administered mostly to healthcare workers in long-term care homes, hospitals, and retirement homes. That number includes just over 15,000 individuals that have received both the first and the second dose of their vaccine. And some other encouraging news is that within Simcoe Muskoka, 92% of all long-term care residents and 69% of all retirement home residents have now received their first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Within Wasaga Beach, as of yesterday, we have had a total of 136 cases reported by the health unit, and that number now includes 119 recoveries, 3 deaths, and 14 people that are recovering. The most recent case in Wasaga Beach was on February 22nd on the 21st, and we have no reported outbreaks at this time. The following is some preliminary information that I'm able to share regarding mass immunization sites and what we can expect over the next coming months. Led by the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit and the Royal Victoria Health Centre, planning is now well underway to launch mass vaccination sites across Simcoe and Muskoka. Locally, we do anticipate that we will have drive-through vaccination sites, which will be led by the South Georgian Bay Family Health Team, set up in both Wasaga Beach and in Collingwood. We expect that several of these mass vaccination sites across the region will become operational in early March. The operating hours of the clinics will be ramped up over time as the availability of the vaccine improves. Once operating at full capacity, we anticipate that between 1,500 and 7,000 vaccines could be administered every day in Simcoe Muskoka using a minimum of 6 sub-regional clinic locations. Although the vaccine continues to be available only to certain priority groups at this time, the general population will become eligible to receive the vaccine in the coming months. And the province is committed to ensuring that all Ontario residents will have access to the vaccine by the beginning of August. So the province is about to begin transitioning into the phase 2 of the implementation plan. The province will begin to transition into phase 2 of the vaccine implementation plan during March, which will allow the following groups to have access to the vaccine. So these groups will include adults over 60 years old, and it will be decreasing in cohorts of 5 years old in the group range over time as vaccine becomes available. All frontline essential workers, at-risk populations, individuals with high-risk chronic conditions, including their caregivers, and individuals working in high-risk congregate settings. So those are the individuals that would be covered in phase 2, beginning in March. Individuals who do not fit into those categories will be found in phase 3, which is the final phase of the immunization implementation plan. And phase 3 will take effect in August and should be completed by December at the latest. Some other encouraging local news is that over the weekend, a vaccine clinic was held at the Waterside Retirement Lodge for residents and staff. And as well, late last week, local paramedics and firefighters were advised that they are now eligible for their first dose of the vaccine. Many of our firefighters have been vaccinated or are being vaccinated this week in Barrie. For the members of the community that are listening, I would encourage them to keep abreast of the information coming from the health unit regarding vaccine. And the best information is available on the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit website, as well as will be available on the South Georgian Bay Family Health Team's website. Your Worship, that includes my update, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Deputy. Questions for Craig? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate, and I think we have to remind ourselves how lucky we are that we get these updates constantly. There's no gray area here. People are letting us know. Both Mike and Craig and George are keeping us completely up to date, and the public should, pay attention to what's going on. Craig mentioned, there could be a possible third wave, and while we've been in lockdown, and I understand there's hardships and all that, and we're starting to come out of it, I assume, like myself, most of you received a video from Blue Mountain the other day of the crowding on the base of the hill, and it disappoints me. I think that in 2 weeks' time, we're going to see again an increase in cases. People just seem to be unwilling to do the basic steps to prevent the spread, or they think it's not going to affect them, so they're not overly concerned. But I do encourage people to continue to use all the proper methods we can, washing, isolating, masking, stuff like that. So that's my comment. And hopefully I'm happy to be wrong on this and that our numbers continue to decline. And once the vaccines get hold, then we're good to go, or better to go anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess it's just a general comment. Craig, you indicated that paramedics and firefighters would be somewhere in that earlier stages. I don't understand, but I find it hard to explain, actually impossible to explain, why police officers have not been included in that contingent as well. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and Craig, I don't know if you have an answer for that.
I do. I think I do. Through your worship, police officers fall into phase 2 because they are considered frontline essential workers. My understanding is allowing paramedics and our frontline firefighters to be immunized first was because they are being considered under the healthcare workers criteria because they are forward patient facing responders. So they have a higher likelihood in seeing in close proximity COVID patients and very sick individuals, as well as our firefighters are regularly going into retirement homes and long-term care homes. So I believe that is the reason for prioritizing them just a little bit higher, but police officers will become eligible following March's rollout of phase 2.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the deputy? If not, thank you. We'll move back to Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. I just like to begin by thanking the Deputy Chief for his participation on the Simcoe Muskoka Committee dealing with the immunization rollout and in organizing our local immunization clinic. We're very fortunate to have him involved, and certainly the information is as current as you know it. So thank you to Craig. The town's 3 public offices opened on Wednesday, February 17th to the public. The final piece of permanent glass was installed at the front counter on the same day, which was much appreciated. Between 20 and 30 people are visiting Town Hall every day. People seem happy to be able to get out and take care of their business. Yesterday was a water bill due date, and there was more in-person traffic that we've seen lately, but lots of phone traffic with people wanting to pay their water bill over the phone. So that's good. They're taking advantage of that service. Staff at the arena have been quite busy with bookings. The minor hockey program is resuming their schedule and are planning a 10-week program. That will push user groups back from their typical spring start dates. So far, everyone has been understanding, and staff will continue to work to see that everyone is accommodated. One of the key messages going out is that going forward, we'll look at the 2018-2019 as the base year for allocating ice going forward. So we've had to make a lot of temporary adjustments pertaining to COVID and the various situations, but when we get back in full steam, we'll be using that as our template. The Recreation Division is currently preparing edits to the digital recreation guide that coincides with the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit moving to the red level under the provincial framework, with consideration given to eventually moving to the orange level, which is less restrictive. The goal is to increase recreation and leisure services offerings coming out of the lockdown. A number of the new programs are scheduled to start March 22nd, which coincides with the previously advertised second session plans. Information will be published on the town's website and town's social media channels. The Wasaga Beach Public Library is reopening to the public tomorrow. Their hours will be 10 to 4, Tuesday to Sunday. There'll be a limit of 3 people at the computers and 10 other visitors for a maximum of 13 patrons in the library at any one time. Finally, the Business Recovery Task Force will resume meeting next week with a full agenda of items for consideration. That concludes my comments, and I'm pleased to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Are there any questions for the CAO? Deputy Mayor Bray?
Sorry. Just quickly, hearing that the Business Recovery Task Force is resuming is good news. Is there any way that suggestions can be forwarded to that committee for consideration? Or what is the best process to get suggestions to that committee?
Mr. CAO?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the Madam Deputy Mayor, you can refer your suggestions to our Economic Development Officer. He is the one responsible for preparing the agenda. We've already had a couple of suggestions for the agenda, so please feel free to forward them to the Economic Development Officer.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, I will ask for a mover and seconder for to receive this for information. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Belanger. The council received the February 23rd, 2021 verbal COVID-19 update from the CAO for information. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, George. Community announcements. I'm looking at my squares here. We'll start in the bottom corner. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended a virtual Chamber of Commerce After 5 meeting. I also attended a virtual Wasaga Beach Builders Association meeting where yourself, the mayor, spoke to the membership about all the exciting initiatives and happenings in our municipality. And I'm continuing to work with residents who are still having issues with Conservation Authority, issues related to permitting and mapping. And finally, I just wanted to give a shout out to our Public Works snow removal crew and all that are involved with that. Everywhere I go, I get lots of great comments from our residents about the fantastic job of moving all the snow. So thank you to those. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. Has fielded a number of resident concerns that I forwarded and followed up with the appropriate department heads, primarily Public Works. Still been out on the trails every day, and they're extraordinary in meeting and speaking to many residents there. And finally, well, 2 other things, but one, I got a haircut finally when the salons opened up because everyone was asking me what charity I was supporting this year, and it was not defined yet. And I just want to remind everyone in the public that the annual Women's in Business Awards is coming up on March 8th. It's a virtual meeting, and the tickets are available through the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like Councillor Belanger, I've been out primarily on the cross-country ski trails a lot, and I ask everybody to, heaven's sakes, if you haven't been out, please take advantage of all our trails that we have. It's fantastic. Really, I just want to make people still remember that although we are very, very lucky in Canada, Ontario, and Simcoe County getting, the inoculated against the COVID virus, we should still keep our mind set on keeping all the proper healthcare things that we've been doing for the last year, washing our hands, using our masks if we have to, social distancing, because even if we have the ability to get through this and get some kind of a norm without COVID. These still same practices will help us keep healthy in the future and lower our healthcare costs. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor Kinney on his final points there. I've been doing a bunch of board work for CHC, the library, and the Friends of Nancy Island. We're doing strategic plans on 2 of those organizations. As well, I've been out every day, wandering as others do. And I just want to point out to the snowmobilers to practice all their safety and know that some of the trails that they're using are shared use trails. So be aware there could be pedestrians with dogs on a leash 6 feet or less. I'm just saying. Again, for those, I realize being out is important in a mental health way. So please make sure you take care of yourself physically and mentally until we're able to be free. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended a virtual Source Water Protection Committee meeting earlier this month. And other than that, it has, excuse me, other than that, it has just been, for the most part, responding to inquiries from various residents or businesses and being able to give them direction as to who to contact or how to undertake what they need to do. Thanks.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. It's been a short month. February is good for that, if nothing else. Attended a number of meetings for the construction steering committee for the arena and new library. Attended the virtual Wasaga Beach Women's Business Association. Attended a couple of virtual Rotary meetings, as well as County Council. As a member of County Council, I sit on the Lake Sinclair Regional Airport Board, which is a fun time to be at that board because things are certainly happening down there. In between, lots and lots of snow shoveling, some snowshoeing, and an invitation to anybody who is home this Thursday night and looking for something to virtually do. Last year, I was able to attend a night at the museum, at the Simcoe County Museum, and it was a really fun event. This year, they're going virtual, and they're calling it Fact or Fiction. So if you're interested, it's simcoe.ca. You can buy a ticket, and I will see you online on Thursday. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. As far as what I've been doing, there's been COVID command team meetings, the arena and library meetings, County Council. I did attend the Home Builders Association. I had the pleasure of presenting a certificate to Jean and Roland Brooks. They are a lovely couple in Wasaga Beach that most people know, and it was their 65th wedding anniversary. So congratulations to them. And I do want to give a shout out to our staff who baked all weekend and made cupcakes, and council and staff purchased them, and they were able to raise $1,000 yesterday for the Georgian Triangle Humane Society. So thank you to staff for that. And I just wanted to make mention of a project that's being worked on. We have our Economic Development Committee task force that was created when COVID began. And from that committee, an offshoot group got together, and it was Councillor Watson, myself, the CAO, and our communications officer, Mike Jennings. And Councillor Watson and I had heard for years now from the development community about working together and really promoting Wasaga Beach as the amazing place that it is. So we collaborated together, and this coming week, there'll be over 100,000 copies of a 16-page publication that will go out to the GTA area. And it's just basically showing everything awesome in Wasaga Beach. So you may have friends and family that will start to see it Thursday in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, Saturday in the Toronto Star, and tomorrow it will be pushed out onto our own social media locally here. So people can share it with their friends and family who are looking to move to a great place with lots of things to do. So council will be given a link to it tomorrow morning as well. And it really is just a great showpiece for Wasaga Beach. And it really shows the collaboration between the town and the development community. I think it's been mentioned a couple of times today about how much we have going on here, and the support we have from the developers is truly fantastic. And before the rumors start flying publicly, I can tell you that this publication was paid for by the development community. It was not used with taxpayers' money or anything like that. So it's something to look for tomorrow on our social media, and it'll be on the town's website. So I do want to give a shout out to Mike Jennings and Pam Canwell, who kind of pulled everything together and got it going. So kudos to them. And that is my report. So with that, we will move to notices of motion. I do have one here from Councillor Kinney, and it was with regard to reduction of town speed limit. And this won't be discussed or debated today. It will come to a future meeting, but it reads as follows. Whereas several municipalities in Ontario are looking at reducing their urban speed limit from 50 kilometers per hour to 40 kilometers per hour to increase pedestrian and cyclist safety, whereas a pedestrian struck by a motor vehicle going 40 kilometers per hour is 97% more likely to survive the collision than if struck at 50 kilometers per hour, whereas the current speed limit in the town of Wasaga Beach is 50 kilometers per hour as per the Highway Traffic Act of Ontario, and whereas several municipalities are reviewing reducing their municipality speed to 40 kilometers per hour in an attempt to increase pedestrian and cyclist safety. Therefore, be it resolved that that town staff be directed to investigate the feasibility, pros and cons of reducing the speed limit on town roads to 40 kilometers per hour and report back to council with their findings and recommendations. So that will come forward at our next meeting to be discussed at that time. Calling of committee meetings, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Members of council, next week we have a special council meeting, and I believe it's on the 2nd of March, if I see the clerk nodding. So we have a special council meeting on March 2nd. Coordinated committee is on the 11th of March at 9 a.m. We have a committee of the whole meeting at March 25th at 9 a.m. And our council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 30th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to bylaws, we will.
Sorry, Your Worship. Can I just ask the CAO what time the special council meeting is? I'm assuming 9, but you didn't actually say that.
Mr. CAO?
I'll ask the clerk to respond to Councillor Wells.
For you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct, 9 a.m. It's a public meeting for planning as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to bylaws, I will read them all with the exception of 2021-17 as Councillor Foster declared a conflict on that. So if I can have a mover and seconder first, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells. Resolve that the following bylaws be received and be deemed to be read at first, second, and third time. 2021-09, a bylaw to govern the proceedings of meetings of town council and its appointed committees and to repeal bylaw 2020-30. 2021-10, a bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for temporary and long-term financing of one or more capital works of the corporation of the town of Wasaga Beach, the municipality, pursuant to a floating rate capital loan facility made available by OILC to the municipality. 2021-11, a bylaw to authorize the construction of water servicing on certain streets and to authorize financing of the costs of the said capital works. 2021-12, a bylaw to authorize the construction of water servicing on certain streets and to authorize financing of the costs of the said capital works. 2021-13, a bylaw to delegate routine or minor powers and duties of the Town of Wasaga Beach Council to officers of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach and to repeal bylaw 2016-102. 2021-16, a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control pursuant to section 50-7 of the Planning Act in respect of lands described as blocks 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, and 143. Registered Plan 51M 1039 in the town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe, Zancor, North Inc., Trillium Forest, North Phase 2. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, if we could split out 2021-10 and 2021-13 as well, I will be opposing those two and supporting all others.
Okay, so if I can have The mover and seconder, Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells, I believe it was, on everything except 2021-10, 2021-13, and 2021-17. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. I've already read 2021-10 and 2021-13. So we will vote on those. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells. All those in favor? And those opposed? So those are carried by a vote of 6-1 with Councillor Belanger in opposition. And we will move to 2021-17. Councillor Foster has declared a conflict. If it's okay, we'll use Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells again. 2021-17, a bylaw to authorize a memorandum of understanding, MOU, between the town of Wasaga Beach and YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka. All those in favor? And that is carried by a vote of 6-0. And the confirmatory bylaw, if I could have a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Foster. A bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach. Resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular meeting held Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021, be received and be deemed to be ready first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2021-18. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. We are adjourned.
And so I went out and I bought myself another vehicle that was older than I am. This is actually my second bike now. This is my my current ride. But my old bike was a 1982 Peugeot. So I guess I just like buying vehicles that are as older than I am. But that really became the keys to the city for me. It really opened up different neighborhoods and different areas of Toronto that were outside of that kind of walk bubble, but that were still a quick and easy bike ride available. And the thing that I found is that it was far and away the fastest way to move through a congested city. It didn't matter if my friends were taking transit, if they were taking a cab, if they were on foot. Me on my bike meant that I was getting there before they did. So I really developed this deep love of my bike, but it was really a monogamous relationship. You know, it was just me and my bike kind of moving through the city. And it wasn't until I ended up moving to Hamilton that I really discovered the value of how bikes can build community. So when I moved to Hamilton, I got involved in a program, in a project called Yes We Canon. And Yes We Canon was an advocacy campaign designed to encourage the city to two-way parking on a big one-way street in Hamilton. So Cannon Street's 4 lanes wide, a one-way street that doesn't carry a whole lot of traffic, but the traffic it carries moves very fast. And so it was almost like a moat in the community. It was really driving the community apart and provided a lot of separation. And we looked at a vision for that street that would bring people together. And so we started talking to people about it, and the response was just overwhelming. You know, everywhere we went, we had people wanting to sign the petition. We ended up gathering over 3,000 signatures. We sent over 500 individual letters to council, people telling councillors what that they wanted to see this project move ahead. And we launched this project in 2013 with the goal of having it on the ground by 2015. And I'm really pleased to say that by September of 2014, those bike lanes were a reality, and they've just been made a permanent piece of infrastructure in Hamilton. So it's it was really instructive to me to show the value of community that gathers around active transportation and around cycling. And it showed me the value of our streets and the public spaces that those are and how important it is. And now, you know, I've kind of come full circle. I've kind of moved back to a little bit more of a individual approach where, you know, the most important thing to me now is getting my kiddos around safely. And if you live in Collingwood, you've probably seen me riding around. I like to say that I've probably got one of the most recognizable vehicles in town. This is how I choose to get around most days. So the reason I tell my story is because I just think that it's illustrative of the fact that a lot of different types of people can come to active transportation for a lot of different reasons. You know, I think if you would have told 18-year-old Justin Jones living in Carstairs, Alberta, driving his 1984 Chrysler Fifth Avenue, that he was going to be living in Collingwood, riding around in a Dutch cargo bike with his two kids, he probably would have looked at you like you grew a second head. But, you know, that's the reality I find myself in. So when I talk about all of this stuff, you know, I want to just take a second and just kind of highlight the fact that I am really, really fortunate to be able to make my passion my profession. I've been fortunate enough to work for the Share the Road Cycling Coalition for 7 years here in Ontario. We're a nonprofit that's based right here in Ontario, and our goal is to build an Ontario that is the most bike-friendly jurisdiction in North America. And so as a result, I have been able to ride my bike in a lot of different municipalities. I've ridden my bike in almost 100 of the 444 municipalities in Ontario. So I've ridden a lot of different places. And when I rode my bike for the first time in Collingwood, I really knew that I had found my home. Collingwood felt like home to me because I haven't found another community that I feel like riding your bike in is as easy, as comfortable, as convenient as it is in Collingwood. We are incredibly fortunate to have a network of trails that is second to none in the province. In terms of our kilometers of trails to our kilometers of roads, we are number one in the province. We have more trails per square kilometer than any other community in Ontario. And I think that it's just one of the gems of our town. It's one of the things that we can be most proud of. You can get basically from anywhere to anywhere in this town on either a nice quiet residential street or a trail. And I think that is just such an asset that we can celebrate. But, you know, as fantastic as it is, it can always be better. And so I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about where we can potentially go here in Collingwood. You know, the great thing about Collingwood is it doesn't matter if you are coming for road biking, for mountain biking, for single track, you know, we've got the BMX park, or if you're going out like I am with my kids and looking for nice, calm, quiet trails and experiences that take us away from roads and cars. We've really got it all here in Collingwood. The access is absolutely incredible. So when I say that we can be Bike Town Ontario and we can be the best place in Ontario to ride a bike, I mean we can be the best place in Ontario to ride any kind of bike for any reason. And I think that that's a real distinction and a real feather in our cap that we can lay claim to here in Collingwood. One of the things about the town of Collingwood is absolutely incredible is how compact it is. Our urban form is really an asset to our community. This shows what the town of Collingwood looks like with a 3-kilometer radius. So that's about the amount of distance that I would cover on my cargo bike with my 2 kids in the front in about 12 minutes. So it's pretty hard to find a trip in Collingwood that you can't make on your bike in 20 minutes or less. It is a really compact and easy to get around town. And it's just one of those things where I think that when it's that easy and that accessible, and we all saw what the difference in our mood was versus right now to the times when we're outside moving around, I just think that it's so important for people to use transportation and getting around the community as an opportunity to improve their mental health as well. So when we survey Ontarians, we find that 32% of Ontarians would like to cycle to or from work more often. And so that is kind of the potential for a lot of our communities, seeing about 30% of people who would like to ride their bike to and from work. But when we talk about, our cycling trips, our trip to work is really only one of about every 5 trips that we make. So the opportunities to change how we move around in terms of everyday trips to the grocery store, to our friend's house, to the cafes, to the restaurants, to the churches, to all the places that we're going to want to go when this is all over. Those are really the opportunities to create a stronger culture of cycling in town. I always say that Monday morning cycling will do more for your community than Sunday morning cycling ever could, especially in terms of lifelong physical activity, because the people that are out there on their bikes on Monday morning, taking their kids to school or riding to work or going to the grocery store, those are the folks that are setting a positive example in terms of lifelong physical activity for their kids. Because when we talk about improving access to physical activity, getting involved in organized sports is obviously something that we want to encourage and we want to do. But the best thing that we can do for people's overall health is improve their access to routine, everyday physical activity. That means walking, biking, wheeling, using skateboards, rollerblades, whatever it is that you need to do to move around, but do it actively. Work those active routines into the everyday things that you're doing, and that's when you start to realize the significant community benefits that active transportation and cycling can bring. So let's learn from some of our peers, like Boulder, Colorado, one of the most bike-friendly communities in the United States. And they have some really incredible programs that run in Boulder, like their RAT Rides, which is it stands for Ride Around Town. So it's a short kind of 3 to 5 mile route that essentially loops through the community and then ends up at a local destination. So whether it's a brewery or a restaurant or a park where there's an ice cream truck, it gives people that opportunity to come out and be social with their neighbors and go for that ride. They also have a really great program that encourages kids to ride and provides bikes to low-income kids. So if a kid can't afford a bike in Boulder, there's always an opportunity for them to get access to a high-quality, well-maintained bike that they're going to be able to use to go out and ride with their friends and ride with the other people around them. They have a small bike share system, which is essentially just kind of a little like the credit card, or if you're a member with your ID card. And those are really great ways to expand access to cycling for people who aren't sure if they're ready to commit to, buying their own bike and starting to ride around. And then they have this fantastic program called Upshift, and it's a mobile bike repair clinic that goes around to different farmers markets and events, particularly in some of the lower income neighborhoods within Boulder. And they do free bike repair, and they also teach people how to do some of the basics of bike repair. So maintaining your bike a little bit, fixing a flat, putting the chain back on, making sure that you have your bike adjusted properly, all those little things that can make the difference between a bike sitting in the back of a garage or being out on the road. And then, so I want to talk about something that I think is a little bit timely and a little bit it's within our realm of possibility here in Collingwood. And it's a movement that's called Slow Streets. And maybe you've heard of it. It's been kind of going around in a lot of places in the United States and increasingly here in Ontario as well. Brampton, Mississauga, Ottawa has instituted some of it because we're seeing such diminished traffic volumes on our streets because so few cars are not traveling. A lot of the cars that are traveling are going very fast. They're looking at those streets as wide open racetracks. And more than that, what you're seeing is people that are having a hard time physical distancing because sidewalks aren't 6 feet wide. Even today, I was out on our trails, and most of our trails are held to a 9-foot standard. Even on our trails today, I found it challenging on my bike to maintain adequate physical distancing in certain spots because they were just starting to get busy. People are meant to go outside, and it doesn't matter if we're in the middle of a pandemic, especially when we're in the middle of a pandemic and we can't go to our parks, we can't go to our playgrounds, we can't socialize with our friends. We need something to do, and that is leading a lot of people to get out and go for a walk or go for a bike ride. And so if we don't have the space to do that safely, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where you know, we're going to be left with a choice between not going out or, you know, potentially having to close off some of those fantastic assets. And that's something I would hate to see. So what we've seen in a lot of different communities is they're closing off streets to through traffic. So they're still maintaining access for emergency vehicles and for the people who live there. But they're saying this is a street that's now designated for people to walk and bike. So this is a picture from Oakland, California, where they've done it really simply, just, you know, a pylon and a road sign. And that's all you need to provide that space for people to walk and bike safely during these tricky times. But it's not just for pandemics. This kind of infrastructure change of reclaiming some of this valuable public space is really starting to move all across North America in a permanent way. And those programs are called neighborhood greenways. And this is actually built into the cycling plan here in Collingwood for streets like Maple and like Collins, where we'd be looking at something called a bicycle priority street that would provide through traffic for people walking and cycling. But for people who are driving, those streets are not anymore accessible as a through street. So every time you get to an intersection, you're forced to turn to go over to, say, here, Ontario, so that you can use that street to head straight north-south through town. But a street like Maple Street would no longer be a shortcut. You know, for people to use to cut through town. It would be a place where kids could, you know, learn to ride their bikes in the street, where street hockey would be easy to play because you wouldn't be stopping for a car every 2 minutes. A place where neighbors would feel comfortable letting their kids play in their front yard, not just in their back. And so those are the kinds of things that I think we should be thinking about as we move through this pandemic and into the time afterward, where we need to be considering how our public space is being utilized. And that, I think, is the thing that if we could take anything away from this, it's the realization that the largest public asset that any community has is our streets. That's the largest single outlay of public space. And when we dedicate them only to one use, I think we rob people of the opportunity to use those streets as, you know, an extension of the front yard, a place that can connect people rather than drive them apart. When we're talking about creating a great bike-friendly city, we need to make sure that we're thinking for all seasons. And especially here in Collingwood, we know that we have kind of, you know, challenging winters. You know, we get lots of snow, we get thaws, we get ice. But there are cities around the world that have similar or worse winters than we do, and they manage to hang on to a lot of people cycling every single year because they maintain a lot of their pathways and their network to a standard that people can ride all year round. You know, I always tell people no one would buy a Toyota Corolla if we didn't plow our roads for the winter, right? It'd be kind of like, oh, snow's flying, put the Corolla away, get the Hummer out. You know, if you aren't maintaining the infrastructure for the types of vehicles that you want to see, don't be surprised when those vehicles aren't usable. So we need to think about how we can make our winter network not quite as robust as our summer network. We don't need to have every single trail and every single road maintained, but we need some priority corridors that can be connected and designated as winter routes. The number one thing that we need, though, here in Collingwood is not a bunch of new infrastructure. It's not new trails. It's not new bike lanes. It's none of that. The number one thing that we need is human resources. We need people that are going to be willing to bring all of the fantastic groups that are working on active transportation in Collingwood together. You know, we've got groups like the Collingwood Cycling Club, like Cork, like the Trails Committee, like our service clubs, like our Active and Safe Routes to School groups. And there's all these amazing people doing all this amazing work, but too often they're not communicating with one another. They're not talking, they're not identifying common goals and identifying places where they can be sharing resources and building a stronger culture of cycling here in Collingwood. And so we were going to launch a Bike Mayor program at the Outdoor Edit Speaker Series, where we're going to look at nominations and getting someone who can, on a volunteer level, serve as the ambassador for cycling in Collingwood, someone who can bring all those different communities together. And so we are still going to try and do this. It's not something that we're going to shelve, but I just encourage you to think about someone in your life who is incredibly passionate about riding a bike in Collingwood, and who would be a great nominee for Bike Mayor, because we would love to see one come forward. And I'm going to close with this, just that people are creatures of habit. We need to give people the opportunity to create new habits. And we're all going through a bit of an adjustment period right now. A lot of the old habits and ideas that we had are obviously being thrown for a bit of a loop. And so we have a unique opportunity to take a minute and consider what is really working in our lives, what's providing us happiness, what's providing us joy, and how can we craft a life coming out of this, and a community coming out of this that fits how we want it to look rather than how it has looked. I think that that's a really tremendous opportunity, and I think it would be a shame if we didn't follow it. I always close my presentation about Collingwood with this picture. This is my friends Adam and Laura. These are two friends that I made literally from the saddle of a bike. And I can count the number of friends that I've made from behind a windshield on 0 hands. I don't have a single friend that I've ever made from behind the windshield of a car, but some of the most consequential friendships that I've ever made came about because of bikes. And so I think that, when we're trying to build a more connected, more compassionate community, getting out and being physically present in that community, whether we're on our bike, whether we're walking, whether we're wheeling, just as long as we're there, we're physical, we're present, and we're presenting our true face to the world. I think that that is really the way forward to build out of this. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to hang out and listen to Tara and Peter. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. All right, so next up we have Tara Blaine Hunt, former crashed ice competitor, owner of Anytime Fitness here in Collingwood, entrepreneur, angel investor, kind of one of the coolest women that I've had the privilege of meeting in the past few years. She's amazing. She's going to be speaking about her journey with nutrition, how we have an amazing opportunity to focus on local producers right now, and why that matters for our local economy as well as for our health. So Tara, I am going to turn it over to you here.
Thank you so much, Molly, for that warm introduction. I'm just going to share my screen with you all. So it is such a pleasure to be a part of the virtual summit series and to be here with you all tonight. I'm going to be talking about a 4-letter F word that we all know, love, but sometimes dislike. Now, some of you might be thinking, is she really going to swear during her talk tonight? Funk no. The 4-letter word I'm going to be talking to you about tonight is one that without, there would be no life. And with no life, there would be no love. A 4-letter word that you and I have had the pleasure to touch, see, hear, smell, and taste. Can anyone guess what that 4-letter F word is that I'm talking about? Drum roll, please. Food. According to Hippocrates, the father of medicine, food is our medicine. And tonight we are going to explore what this means and why it is important to get back to basics when it comes to our healthy food and the opportunity that we have to come together as a community stronger than ever. Now, this talk has the potential to be beneficial to everyone on the call tonight, especially those of you who struggle or who have struggled with sports performance due to improper nutrition, energy and or weight management, that feeling of needing caffeine, chocolate, or other sugary pick-me-up, potential sacrifice mental performance and irritated behavior, as well as connection with oneself, others, and or nature. So here's a little bit more about me. My husband, Ed, and I are partners in Anytime Fitness, and we met actually back in 2003 while working as recreation therapists at Waypoint Center for Mental Health. It was actually during the SARS outbreak. Yes, I am an angel investor with humble beginnings. I actually lived in my car while supporting myself from the age of 16. Consequently, I am a half credit shy of receiving my high school diploma, but that's a discussion for another day. Being the oldest female to qualify and compete in Red Bull Crashed Ice, I got to experience what it feels like to fly. I will never forget skating to the starting gates of my first Red Bull race, looking out over St. Paul, Minnesota, where Anytime Fitness's head office location is held. There were over 100,000 people in the crowd, with the cathedral as our backdrop. I knew if I could land this 20-foot drop, I could do anything, including sharing my struggle with a Zoom room full of friends and friends of friends. I know that we are all connected. So like a caterpillar morphs into a butterfly, my intention, in fact, my life's purpose is to help others, maybe even you, learn to fly, but without the 20-foot drop. So if we're gonna fly together, we had better warm up first. So I'm gonna get to you guys too, and I can't see your video, but I'm gonna trust that you're standing up with me right now, and we're gonna squat down like we're sitting in a chair, and then reach up to the ceiling, and then do it again. Squat down, and then reach, and then last time, 3 times a charm, and reach. Thankfully, your videos aren't on, so I can't see your pajamas. Okay, so if healthy food is our medicine, then the opposite must be true. And for me, this is less of a question, and it's more of my life story. Here's my secret. To this day, I struggle with all of these things. Growing up, I was exposed to a lot of very unhealthy eating habits from my parents, my extended family, the media, television, and magazines, and the quote-unquote nutrition experts. I didn't know how, what, why, or when to eat. And so some days I did eat, and some days I didn't. You would never know by looking at this photo from 1995 that the year prior, I was awarded Athlete of the Year thanks to a total of 7 Georgia Bay Championships titles. Sports were my outlet to my internal struggle with food. And so in 2000, I set out to make peace with my unhealthy eating habits and get to the core of what it meant to fuel the body, the mind, and the spirit. While working nights at a local factory, I came across a new version to the sport of triathlon, the Xterra Off-Road Adventure Triathlons. There were 2 races back-to-back within 900 kilometers of each other, one in Whistler and one in Hood River. I rationalized that I could fly into Vancouver, ride my bike to Oregon, and catch a return flight out of Portland. No more fake it till you make it, I thought. The moment of truth was about to unfold. And unfold it did. Despite all of my preparation, improvements to nutrition, training, and coaching, by the time I made it to the run of the Whistler course, I bombed. Completely and utterly ran out of gas. I had to walk the entire 10K trail run. With no one to blame but myself, the negative self-talk crept in. What was I thinking? A rebellious kid from Ontario trying to compete in the big leagues of professional endurance sport. Give up on your dream of being a greater, better version of yourself, Tara. Go back to normal. The only problem was, I didn't even know what normal was. And then this happened. At the almost halfway mark between my ride from BC to Oregon, I got 2 flat tires and had to take shelter for the night under a picnic table. just outside of Olympia, Washington. Early the next morning, I awoke to the loud sounds of a mountain lion warning its prey, me, stay back or I'll attack. Please let me live, lion, I remember saying, although quiet enough as to not to provoke the hungry cat. My life has meaning, and although I don't know what the meaning of my life is, I promise I will figure it out. Let me live, little kitty, please don't eat me. No sooner after the commitment to myself and the fat cat was made, the lion went away, and I was left to continue on my journey. When I got into town that morning, I was greeted by a utopian-like community of fellow cyclists, community gardens, art, culture, local currency, and a feeling of community connected with nature. This was the fuel that I needed to finding my life's purpose. That weekend in Hood River, I had the best triathlon race experience of my life. I can still remember the smell of the air, the feeling of rolling through the single track mountain bike course, and the pure appreciation of my body connecting to the earth with each stride along the run. When I crossed the finish line, to my surprise, I heard my name announced over the loudspeaker. And in third place, all the way from Ontario, Canada, Tara Blaine. Despite my complete and utterly disappointing finish at last weekend's race in Whistler, I persevered and made podium. This was no longer about a triathlon course. No, this was way bigger than that. This was about my life's course. The matter of life's meaning and life's meaning to matter. And so, for 20 years, I've been researching and experimenting with food as my medicine. And to spare you all the head and heartache, sleepless nights, and worrisome days I've compiled a very keep it simple list of ways that you too can benefit from food. First things first, rise and shine with lemon water. It's like shower on the inside. Number 2 is to practice an attitude of gratitude. Hold hands, say grace, be thankful for each day. Number 3 is to put your body into a state of rest and digest the parasympathetic nervous system, not fight or flight, by eating within 60 minutes of waking. Slow down to speed up metabolism. Give leptin, our satiety hormone, the time that it needs to release and signal to your body that you're full. You know, fat got a bad rap, and it's actually like the internet or the Wi-Fi for our body, so it can send signals to and from one area to the other. Number 6, and this is one that I really struggled with, and that is to eat colorful fruits and vegetables, and to consider fruit as nature's candy. The more color, the more likely you're getting a balance of nutrients and vitamins. For number 7, for me, as an A blood type, I eat mostly vegetarian. However, if you're an O, according to the science, your protein is better sourced from meat, which leads me into number 8. By sourcing locally grown and raised food, not only are you supporting our local economy, you're also supporting your local ecosystem, your immune system. Together, we can make healthy happen. Together, we can create our own utopia. Imagine a town where everyone bikes to the local farmer's market, a place where people come together to share, to grow, to learn, to enjoy local food, music, art, ideas, a place where we can stay, play, create, and care about one another. All for one and one for all. We are stronger together. And although we don't know how long we have to practice social distancing, we the people have the ability to come together and support each other through our local food chain. So here's a list of local healthy food providers. And we will be sharing this list with you, and ask if you know of others, please share as well. By supporting our local ecosystem, as mentioned, you're supporting your immune system. Right now and always, Healthy food is our best offense to defend disease. We can do this. As unhealthy habits unfold, it's easy to get confused, it's easy to get discouraged, and it's easy to feel alone. Remember me and the mountain lion? Follow Anytime Fitness on social media and join a community of like-minded individuals who are facing the challenge just like you and I. Together, we can make healthy happen. I want to thank you all tonight. Namaste.
Awesome. Well, excited to sort of close the show out tonight. Hopefully I won't be too long here. I know everyone wants to get going and stuff. But thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for listening to all of us. What I wanted to talk about was indeed sort of about movement. You know, that we've been touching on this in different ways tonight. But I thought, as from a kinesiologist standpoint, from my work in endurance coaching with adults, I wanted to talk a bit about movement tonight and sort of what that means, even beyond sort of working out and training. The best way to talk about what I do is to sort of through the people and some of the images, right? So I think that's where the impressive stuff is, and where people get out and really shine and go on adventures. And so I have clients like this who are, busy people, maybe working in healthcare, have families, have the normal sort of responsibilities of life, but are able to put in time, over a consistent amount of months and years, so that they can build up and do things like this is a 100-mile gravel race. And this is just makes me smile watching, this client just distancing herself from all these men is just really cool. And just like all these training and all the stories behind that are really cool. This picture is not coming in quite as well, but it's another client who's, going to university, really busy, riding technical trails, believe it or not. This is another female client who's, learning how to jump, and as an adult woman, conquering fears and, really getting through that. And so it's this really cool stuff that, again, building over time, nothing, huge, but it's these small wins and confidence building sort of experiences, right, that we're getting through sport. There's another group, a local club, not unlike our local club here in Collingwood, Cork, and they're learning about mountain bike skills, and they're just trying to get out there and figure out mountain biking and riding better so that they can get out and ride with their friends, enjoy the forest, be safe as adults, and as kids, right? This one actually has younger clients as well, which is great. And this is another client who's a teacher, but he's actually one of the best masters mountain bike racers in the country, if not the world. We just had world championships in this past year. And so he's been training probably over 20 years at least now. And I thought that part of the reason that this was good to sort of highlight these people doing really amazing, like high level things, was that, everything was going really good. The winter was really, really good. I was getting pretty excited that everyone, most people were rolling along pretty well here. And then, obviously, you probably felt a bit of this as well. It felt like the treadmill just abruptly stopped and we were all sort of slammed into the ground. Whatever our goals were, whatever we were hoping to do this spring. And so I thought, Justin alluded to this, Molly's alluded to this opportunity we have that we've all sort of just been slammed into the ground, and sort of the treadmill of life, if you will, has sort of come to a pause in a lot of ways, for better or worse. And there's obviously a lot of really troubling and a lot of really hard things right now. But we also have this pause where we have to revisit. I'm sure in your day-to-day life, there's been changes where you're maybe at home more, you maybe have more time to get out and walk, or maybe not. You maybe had a great training routine and maybe that's been disrupted and you've seen that change. You're maybe cooking at home more. I imagine you're not, as easily going out and getting fast food, right? So there's a lot of positives, negatives, possibilities for changes that we're looking at as far as health and nutrition and lifestyle. And it could go either way. It could be improving things in some ways. It could be not improving things in some ways. But I think this has been a great leveling where, regardless of the client I'm working with or the person I'm working with, there's this opportunity for change, this impetus that we're all sort of thrown into the ground. And we're sort of trying to rebuild and build these habits now. And so whether you're like one of my clients, whether you're trying to get ready for the group ride, you're trying to get really set up to go for big rides on the weekends, or you are aspiring to something, big races in the future, I think it's worth thinking about this as an opportunity. Again, acknowledging the tough times that are ahead and that we are in, but looking at this time. And for the athletes that I do work with, we've been sort of coming back to this idea of you are an athlete and there is an opportunity here for us to have some control. If I have this diagram here, it's actually from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but there's this idea of there's things we can control and there's things we can't control. There's a lot right now we can't control. That's the big outer circle. But inside, there's some elements of your day that you can control. Some of us don't have a lot. Some of us, it might be, just small motions. It might be our attitude that we're bringing to things. For some of us, there might be a lot of the day free that we do control. And if we think about ourselves as an athlete, then there's things like goals as far as, what we're doing every day. We're planning our workouts. We're maybe planning when we're going to go for a walk. Our nutrition is something we have more control probably than we've had in the past and less distractions than we've had in the past for a lot of us. So I want you to think about some of that opportunity as things that you can control and some of that stuff that we're concerned about, but is, a little bit beyond our control largely, right? And trying to think of your exercise, your movement as a way to feel like you're making progress in some things, to feel like you're, able to control something in life. And I think for a lot of us, that's an empowering message, right? The idea with exercise is that, people will say you got to get started. You got to get started. And that's easy if you're into exercise, I think, to get out the door. Often, you can figure that out. But I think the message that movement versus even exercise is our goal, whether we're a hard charging athlete trying to do 100-mile gravel races, or we're someone who's just trying to take those first literal steps to exercise. Doing something is worthwhile, right? That's the messaging we're seeing, that like whether it's mental health, whether it's blood sugar control, weight management, bone health, our sleep at night, if we can get out and walking, if we can use the stairs, if we can do a workout, great. If we can join into a Zoom meeting and do a workout or something, that's all amazing stuff. But the key is that we start and we start slow. There's no need for it to be a huge, massive workout. You don't have to be super sore the next day. And in fact, it's better if you're, oh, I felt better, just like Justin said. If we all are feeling better when we're moving in some ways, it doesn't have to be something official like a workout. It can definitely be movement through the house, around the house. There's this sort of mindset, we've seen on TV, The Biggest Loser or something like that, where, it seems like everyone's just like really breathing hard all the time and, do lifting for hours and exercising for hours and running marathons. And that's great if that's what you're into and you enjoy that. And you might get there, like Molly alluded to in her talk, for those of us that are starting, and even those of us that are trying to deal with this more inside, more sedentary living, right? We're not able to walk around the city. We're not able to maybe even commute to work anymore. Trying to build in some of these little movements into our day, into our house are important. I put the turtle there. This is from the Labyrinth here in Collingwood. I challenge you to go for a walk and find it if you haven't found it. It's in Harborview Park. The turtle's there, and I always, I wouldn't say I meditate, but when I ride by it or I run by it or we walk by it, it does remind me of this idea of consistency over time rather than no pain, no gain. So as you're pursuing movement, I want you to remember that turtle. These couple images here, so we're talking about moving at home in these small motions, right? On the one side here, we have a lady, that's actually Katie Bowman, who has a couple great books around sort of this idea of mini movements and movements built into our day that aren't necessarily exercise, but movements that are built into things that we do. We're very good at outsourcing. We have cars to drive us places. We have people that deliver our food to us. We have blenders to blend our food. Everything is getting easier. And she's been very good at, I think, showing how, we can make life a little harder, a little more challenging, and build some of these movements into our day. So if you're someone who's working from home right now, can you do a couple hours where maybe you're seated or standing or, mix that up? So that's the one image. And then we have the other one of stairs, right? A lot of us have stairs, and those are a great thing that, we can go up and down the stairs between meetings. We can incorporate that into a workout with something like Tara did squats today. So now you've got squats. We've already started. We got our workout done for today. Tomorrow, maybe some stairs plus the squats that Tara had you do. would be a first step into, gradually progressing. A couple more ideas here. We have sort of a more formal family workout. A lot of my clients, some of the ones that are even pictured, are having to come to terms with the kids are home. And so what we used to do, 1 hour on our indoor trainer or a treadmill or our home gym or, going to the gym, now you have to deal with the, little kids, the dogs, the spouse is around, and we're all sort of just like in this captive environment, right? And the clients that are doing the best with this are maybe still doing some, formal exercise training. They're getting their workout in, but they're also including their kids in a portion of it, or the kids are also like doing a little bit with it. And I think the ones that are doing the best is they're actually started letting the kids participate and even plan some of it. The kids are really good at planning out obstacle courses and games of tag and football and baseball and, any of the things you have in your house. I'm sure you have things like swing sets, or you have, different toys, scooters, skateboards, little bikes, some sort of weight equipment. And you can make games out of it. It doesn't have to be a formal workout like the one at the top. It can definitely be something that's more of a game, or, something the kids will fill in the blanks for you. One of the final ideas here, so we have this walking. Walking is something that I think, when in doubt, just go for a walk. Hopefully we still have that ability, but that could be walking around the house, using the stairs, touring around the basement, going laps around the house. Right now, all the ultra trail runners are doing, big 100-mile runs around their house. So they're doing it in like 100-meter, 200-meter laps. We don't have to be quite that crazy, but you might just do a lap around the house, right? It could be incorporated. I love that the family's tied into this. If you're on meetings or calls, I really don't like being on meetings or calls. So a lot of times I'll go for a walk, and it's pretty good. It's a great way to sort of be attentive and not be distracted, but be moving while you're talking to people. If you can do it in person, great. We're in a time where that's not as easy. So you could definitely be looking at, being on even FaceTime. I've seen people walking around like that, but you could certainly be on a phone call with someone, catch up, and the hour goes by and you've been walking for an hour, right? Versus sitting while you're doing that. On the bottom here, we have gardening, and I want to tie gardening in with cooking. Again, when we're talking about little motions, obviously we have some, stooping down, squatting down, we have some wheelbarrow lifting, that type of stuff. So those are motions that do count. This is light activity that does count towards, like I say, the bone health, feeling it like you're outside and your mood. But when we're even things like chopping food and cooking our food at home should be counted towards our movement of the day, right? This is light activity. This is stuff that we're not just sitting passively. We are sort of standing and having to move and use our body in different ways. And all those little cells, all those little joints in our body need that movement, right? It's moving blood through our body. And it's not just strictly this idea of calories or a workout. It's this idea of movement throughout the day. Making life harder is maybe a way you could describe that. But I think making life more active is a better way, and that we're, again, doing this with people we like, hopefully, talking to them virtually or in person, and gradually building that over time. I wanted to finish with sort of a slide that ties into what Molly was talking about to start off with, where, a lot of people aren't exposed to exercise and maybe don't have that exercise bug. During this time, we have a lot of people in our lives that maybe don't have that access and are maybe more restricted and less motivated to get out. Right? It's harder for them to get out. They've been told not to go outside. Maybe they don't have access to their usual gym or, again, commute or whatever they're doing. And I think this slide, this is out of Victoria, Australia, really sort of, it's talking about young people, but I think it applies to a lot of people, right? They go for a walk if someone asks them, right? And they enjoy it more if someone asks them and they're out there and they're just talking. Again, the hour goes by quite quickly. You can see the big number there, the bigger number there is the anxiousness, the symptoms of any sort of mental health are improved by getting outside. And to get out of the house, honestly, right now, as a fidgeter and just someone that needs to move and be outside, it's a great excuse to get outside. So if I could leave you with anything tonight, I think it's this idea of starting slowly with whatever you're doing. Again, that might be walking even if you're a hard charging athlete, and to try and make it more social and more holistic, for lack of a better word, where we're tying that into things that we're doing and doing it with people, to try and build that into the day, right? So not just an isolated hour, but we're thinking about how that whole day can be a little bit more active. All right, so that is sort of the end of my presentation, and hopefully that is of use to you. If you do have any ideas or questions, you can certainly connect with Molly or myself through the consummateathlete.com and then also on social media. And I'll let Molly just finish things up here for you tonight.
All right, as I boot him off stage. Thank you again, everyone, so much for taking the time to hang out with us tonight. Hopefully, once we're all back outside on the playgrounds and in the parks again, you'll say hello if you spot us. And of course, we're hoping to see everybody at the Gaiety Theater on October 9th. Thank you so much, and take care of each other and get outside. Have a good night, everybody.